So if you've been following me on social media, you probably know I've been going through just a whole lot this year. In January, a faulty washing machine in the upstairs apartment resulted in my apartment flooding, causing the ceiling to collapse and water to pool in the walls. My landlord turned out to be a moron with weak property insurance. It took months for repairs to even start, and once they had, my landlord realized that it was a complete money pit, and if he was going to do this, he may as well renovate the place and triple the rent, and basically told me to take a hike. So now I'm homeless and couch surfing as I look for a new place, preferably in a new state because Idaho sucks. I have my computer with me and can work on videos in a more limited capacity, but with my focus split up from all of this, work on longer videos have slowed down to a crawl. You've probably noticed there's only been one knickknack so far this year. Well, I don't want to leave you with nothing, but it's going to be easier, shorter videos for a while. A lot of sample platters, and for the sake of variety, a new, irregularly updated series. Welcome to the first volume of TV Obscura, a look at obscure, forgotten, and odd television programming. How this works is, I get a random date between 1950 and 2014 from random.org. I then go into the newspaper archives and find TV listings for that date, and from those listings, select 3 television shows that are a bit lost to history. Of course, there is some subjectivity to this. There might be a show here that you watched all the time and is a personal favorite, but I think for a general audience, these shows haven't left much of an impact and aren't well remembered today. I'll do my best to find footage and information on these shows, but since the whole point is to talk about forgotten television, I can't make any promises. Our first date is July 29th, 1999. Genie in the Bottle by Christina Aguilera is topping the charts. The Haunting is #1 in the box office, and the Rock and Roll Coaster ride opens at Walt Disney World. It's a Thursday, so a pretty low-key day for television. Some Diagnosis Murder here, some The Nanny reruns there. Arguably the biggest television event of the night was the TV edit of the first Bad Boys movie playing on Fox. So let's dive into these listings and see what long-forgotten shows we can dig up. The Teen Files was a series of 7 television documentaries produced between 1998 and 2000, focusing on all of the usual scare topics of the time like underage drinking, drug use, premarital sex, and bigotry. Hosted by talk show host Lisa Gibbons, most of the episodes followed a similar format. Bring in 4 teens who regularly deal with the subject of the day, like frequently getting drunk at parties or having lots of unsafe sex, and put them through a gauntlet of scenarios that shows them the supposed harm these things could cause, meeting with experts, victims, and even simulating these experiences for themselves, like when the show plants drugs in a teen girl's backpack and has her arrested.
Okay, Kirsten, at this point you're under arrest. What you're being arrested for, Kirsten, is possession of narcotics, and with this amount, you're going to be arrested for sales. Kirsten, you have the right to remain silent. If you give up the right to remain silent, anything you do, say, can, will be used in court against you.
It's classic Dare-era sensationalism, less focused on education and more on shocking the youth into avoiding certain temptations. We could educate you on what drinking does to your liver, or we could bring you into an autopsy room, place 2 livers in front of you, and say these came from a couple who died in a car crash just yesterday. And now close your eyes and put your hand in this bowl of eyeballs. Ooh!
Are you kidding? No, I'm not kidding. I'm being totally serious. If a patient is totally...
A lot of the stuff in this show is suspect. While there are a few individuals brought in who are clearly real, who have dealt with the tragic consequences of these issues, the ethics of a lot of these scenarios suggest staging and actors trying to get you scared straight. Which is fitting because The Teen Files was created by Arnold Shapiro, who created the 1978 documentary Scared Straight, about young juvenile delinquents being brought to a high-security prison and having inmates terrorize them in hopes of getting the kids back on the straight and narrow.
That's right. Now, I took that. And I know you don't like it. Did you like it because I took your shoe? Well, do something about it. All you gotta do is get up and go through me to get it. Nobody else.
The film was very successful, winning both an Oscar and an Emmy, and resulted in the creation of several Scared Straight programs throughout the country. The problem is that these programs have proven to be grossly ineffective, researchers finding that kids who go through the program were more likely to become repeat offenders. Despite these findings, Arnold Shapiro would ride the Scared Straight train for decades, producing other sensationalist documentaries on child abuse, child murder, and substance abuse in families, as well as creating Rescue 911, a show built on reenactments of real accidents, crimes, and personal tragedies.
When tragedy rocks our quiet world, it reminds us just how much we need each other to survive. I'm William Shatner. Tonight, true stories of compassion that knows no boundaries on Rescue 911.
The Teen Files falls very much in line with Shapiro's body of work. You can argue that the basic messages are good, that taking a bunch of skinheads to a Holocaust museum is a positive thing, but at its heart, the show is exploitation, education by way of shock value, proven ineffective and just pretty dang shitty. The hour-long episodes aired sporadically on UPN, with half-hour versions being released on home video and sent to schools to be used in their curriculum. In fact, I would guess that most people watch the Teen Files in their health classes than on actual broadcast television. The program ended in 2000, with Shapiro blaming television's pivot to reality TV. Now the broadcast networks have found a certain kind of non-fiction for which they can get good ratings. But it's game reality. It's not documentary. It's not cinema verite. The Teen Files is not cinema verite because we're always putting kids in situations where they have to grow and get their acts together and see the truth. So we're as manipulative as the other shows, but for a higher purpose. We're trying to bring people together. Survivor is trying to divide and conquer. Survivor goes from 16 people to 1. We're taking 11 kids who wouldn't give each other the time of day in their high school, who, at the end, become a cohesive unit. So the Teen Files is doing the exact 180-degree opposite of what Survivor and Big Brother are doing. All of that is pretty funny because shortly after the Teen Files ended, Arnold Shapiro would become one of the producers on Big Brother.
Going my way? I'm sexy. So sexy. So this is love.
Walking the love street, come on, take a ride. Come on the love street, and we'll take a ride.
I love the taste of money. Go on, taste it. Taste it. Touch me. Touch me. Touch me.
Come on the love street, and we'll take a ride. Come on the love street.
One of the enticing things about cable television in the 80s and 90s was that it existed outside the regulations of network television, meaning you could watch more, shall we say, scandalous things at home. Erotic cable programming didn't really survive the rise of the internet, but for a time, subscribing to premium channels like Showtime and Cinemax was second to only the secret room in the back of a video rental store and how people got to see nipples and butts on their television screens. Yes, I've chosen an erotic premium cable channel show for this first episode of TV Obscura, and yes, I'm going to get demonetized. Love Street was an erotic anthology series that aired on Showtime, premiering in 1994 and running for 2 seasons. Showtime had found a lot of success with the format 2 years earlier with Red Shoe Diaries, and Love Street was created to be a sister series, airing right after its older sibling. The main difference was that the Red Shoe Diaries was aiming to be classy, with moody lighting, soulful, jazzy scores, and actual known television actors like David Duchovny. To be a little reductive, Red Shoe Diaries was softcore pornography made by actual filmmakers. Love Street was not aiming to be classy. The opening, with its dirty street alleys and leather-clad ladies, made it clear that this was a much more trashy affair, and from what little footage I managed to dig up, it was far less interested in being little erotic films, and more in being softcore porn with a slightly higher budget. Pretty much everything is at least 1 degree worse than Red Shoe Diaries, especially the acting.
I mean, there you were. You were like one of the biggest porn stars there were. On top of the world, I must say. And then what? They found out you were 16? Ow. Was it like they said?
You mean, was I forced into porn films by the scummy slimeball male population?
Well, yeah.
Not really.
What? Was this your idea?
Can we change the subject, please?
Of the one full episode I managed to get my hands on, the thing that kills me the most is the soundtrack. Where Red Shoe Diaries opted for a jazzy, noirish soundtrack with a lot of moody brass, Love Street is synthesizer focused, and everything outside of the actual sex scene is scored like a mid-90s kids show. Like, this shit sounds like Wishbone. Now that just might be this specific episode, and maybe there were some actual decent erotic stories, but I wouldn't put any money on it. Love Street was produced by Cinema Products Video, who, before and after the show, focused on low-budget erotic straight-to-video content, basically softcore porn producers. I'm not a prude. If I was, I wouldn't be talking about the show at all. Even cheesy porn has its place. It's simply the contrast between Red Shoe Diaries that gets to me. Airing Love Street right after Red Shoe Diaries is like going to an expensive restaurant, having a delicious beef Wellington, and then for dessert, the waiter just chucks a sleeve of Oreos at you. Oreos are fine, tasty even, but it's a bit of a tonal whiplash. If I had a nickel for every time they made a full television series starring dubbed chimpanzees doing spoofs of popular culture, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. Yeah, every once in a while, for whatever reason, somebody will get into their head that chimpanzees and apes of similar size are not wild animals that can do serious harm to a person on a whim, but are in fact funny little guys that they can dress up and parade around for our amusement. We already covered such a show on this channel. Lancelot Lake, Secret Chimp, a 1970s spy spoof for kids that was designed to lead into old Looney Tunes shorts. Nearly 30 years later, TBS Superstation decided to do a similar show, but instead of for kids, it would be raunchy for adults.
Nice to meet you, Timmy. I'm Candy, makeup and wardrobe.
Wardrobe? Did you ever get to dress Marina?
Yeah, I fitted Marina for the Delta Burke story. Big jeans, big dreams.
Wow, that means you've seen Marina without any... I wet myself.
That's okay, hon. You're just young and dripping with hormones.
TBS had been messing around with chimpanzees for nearly a year up to this point, airing Monkeyed Movies, a series of short movie spoof interstitials that aired during film broadcasts and sporting events.
Look out, it's the T-1000.
He doesn't look so tough. No!
Created by the distractingly similar named Tim Burns and Tom Stern, who started working together on Alex Winter's MTV sketch comedy show The Idiot Box. The Chimp movie spoofs proved popular enough, maybe, I guess, that the idea was expanded into a half-hour program. We follow the day-to-day shenanigans of the Chimp Channel, TCC, as they produce new shows and deal with spoiled talent. The first thing you notice when watching the show is that it's not very good. A lot of very common topical jokes for 1999, a Monica Lewinsky joke here, a David Hasselhoff joke there, combined with a mix of immature sex jokes that'll get the 6th grade boys watching all giggly, I guess.
Ooh, slowly.
Waller, you stinking son of a wombat! Shut that thing off before I tear you a new...
The second thing you notice is that these chimps are voiced by a who's who of late 90s, early 2000 voice actors. I'm talking about Richard Steven Horvitz, Darren Norris, Jennifer Hale, Maurice LaMarr, Dwight Schultz, Mindy Cohn. Just a murder's row of talent voicing sex jokes coming out of the flapping lips of chimps.
Wow, Monica, I could suck on your web feet all day.
I don't have web feet.
To the show's credit, it worked closely with the American Humane Society, and there were no reports of animal abuse on set, which is not to say that it was a smooth production. Co-creator Tom Stern is a bit of a character, pejorative, and in protest to creative conflicts between him and TBS, Stern stripped off his clothes and broke beer bottles while on set. He was rightly fired, and then Stern took matters to court for alleged illegal termination. I've been perfecting this chimp directing technique for 5 years, and these guys have the gall to remove me just at the point where we stood the chance to make a great show. Instead, it's a piece of monkey doo-doo. Huh. Yeah. Okay. The Chimp Channel is a bad show, where chimpanzees perform Baywatch parodies and make juvenile sex jokes. Maybe there'd be something to this if it was made in the 80s or even earlier in the 90s, but this was a post-South Park world. These antics were weak sauce, and the Chimp Channel would only run for one 13-episode season. And there we have it. Some scared straight teen PSAs, some corny erotica, and some bizarre chimp shenanigans. The common denominator between all three of them is a certain level of exploitation, trying to get at some of the caveman parts of your brain and entertain you with some jingly keys, be they through exaggerated fear-mongering, cheap titillation, or look at the monkey! Television that insults your intelligence. Oh well. Did you catch any of these shows back in the day? What forgotten shows from 1999 do you remember? And what date might we roll up next on TV Obscura?